Hey folks, today I'm going to be talking to you about how I keep track of my session and campaign notes as a dungeon master. So this has been a little bit of a journey, so I'm going to kind of take you through what I started with, the couple of different things I've tried, and the current note-taking method that I'm using. So when I was planning the campaign, I came up with the idea and then I started keeping track of everything in a Word document. I think technically actually it was pages, but same difference. So in this Word document, I started off with having kind of the intro information for the campaign that I gave to my players. Then I had the basic overview of timeline that I gave them, the Pantheon, and then I had a page that was just for me. It was kind of the stuff that I knew was going on, kind of the overall plan for the big bad, and a couple of other things. So then I started just a header for each session, and this worked out pretty well at the start because I was able to kind of, the way I did it was I kind of knew, okay, the first story arc is probably going to be about this many sessions, and so I had those headers in, and then I kind of filled in the key thing that I wanted them to accomplish each session or the area they were going to be in, and then I could fill it in as I planned each session. Now, especially at the beginning, because we had such fluctuation on who the players were and how many there were, I didn't go ahead and plan out that entire story arc as far as individual encounters and what exactly they're going to be up against. I knew the big picture stuff, but all those detail things I did session by session. So I would sit down with my computer, sit down with the Dungeon Master Guide and the Monster Manual and Player's Handbook, all of those books, and fill in that info. Now, one thing I thought with having it all in a Word document was that I wanted to have everything in one place. So I initially started putting in tables that had the monster stats and basic PC stats in there. Initially, I found this really helpful because then I didn't have to flip through pages, but the problem that I ran into was that it takes a lot of time to input that info, so I kind of stopped doing that because I just found it held up my prep time. I spent so much of my prep time just putting in information from a book versus just marking down what page number it is and then putting a tab in the book so I could flip it open. And really, I didn't mind having the book behind my GM screen open on the table. The times that it gets a little annoying is when I have to keep flipping back and forth if I have a couple different kinds of monsters or if I'm drawing from two different books. Trying to stack those up can sometimes be a little awkward. So moving on, I kind of abandoned putting all of that information in there. Now, the next thing I ran into with an issue of keeping everything in a Word document is it just got so long, especially as I went through and we got further into the campaign. And so I know there are a couple of other digital methods out there that may be better, like Evernote, OneNote, those kind of note-taking apps. I've heard a lot of people advise using those as a GM. I personally didn't go that method just because for me, actually recalling information, I recall it a lot better if I've handwritten it, and I find it's much easier for me to flip back in a physical notebook than scrolling through a document or having to go through a whole bunch of different tabs to find things, as well as just setting up all of the internal stuff in one of those note-taking apps versus just putting it down on the page. And the other issue I ran into was I found it difficult to keep notes during the session when I had it all digitally. So there would be things that I would change mid-session, mostly minor things, but stuff I wanted to keep track of in the future, and also new things like, oh hey, they decided to go talk to an NPC that I didn't name, so I'm going to jot down that NPC's name that I came up with on the spot, as well as a few notes so that if they ever want to go back and find that NPC again, I can remember who it was, some key information about it, as well as well, what information did they have? If they got treasure, if they didn't get treasure, that way I could keep track of those things. So then I turned to my next note-taking method, which was kind of a hybrid. So I continued on using the Word document, but I also added in having just a handy-dandy little notebook with me, and the notes I took during session in this are not the best. I'm not even going to really bother showing them to you because mostly it was like, this is 2 sessions worth of notes. If you can even see it, don't really remember what a lot of them were. This stuff was important. I remember this stuff. Most of it actually was just keeping track of combat things, like keeping track of hit points, especially keeping track of things like Bane, where, okay, there are so many rounds that this is in place, and I need to keep track of that. My players also do a good job of helping remind me those things, but also I need to keep track of it and remember. So this worked okay for a little bit, and I just had to then remember to go back into the Word document after the session and add in the notes. Again, didn't always happen. Wasn't super finding this a smooth method, and the further and further we got into the campaign, I just started getting a bit overwhelmed with how many pages there were and just scrolling through. So then I tried having, like, okay, well, I'll have a new Word document for a new session. That worked okay, but then also I started having all these files, and if I ever have to go back and reference it, I have to find the right file and open it. Bit too much. So then I had backed the Rook and the Raven campaign planner, and I knew that was coming and was really excited about that. We'll get to that in a little bit. But while I was waiting for the Kickstarter, while I was waiting for that notebook to reach me, I tried out a couple of other different paper methods. I was looking around online for a couple of, like, essentially printouts that I could have that gave me a template to keep track of session notes, and I found the printouts that RWN. Oh dear, dyslexia. I'll put a link somewhere here. And I printed those out and gave them a try. So I tried out the session summary, where I wrote 2 things on it. I did have one that I filled in a lot more, but it disappeared. I'll get into that in a moment. And I found the encounter manager. This is one that I filled in with using the font that came with it, and then this is one that I just filled in on my own. You may or may not be able to read the pencil this far away. But I liked, this was great. It gave me a place to put notes, place to put status, so like, they've got Bane, or stuff like that, and then loot, and I actually kind of jotted down a few notes just for session stuff down in here. There also were a couple of other things, kind of, I got the Dungeon Master pack. There was an NPC list. This was super useful. Gave me a place to write down all of my NPCs. And this method I found worked a little bit better. I had better recall because I just remember things better if I've taken the time to write them down. The problem is I write better if I'm typing, like creative writing, because I can type faster than I can handwrite. I just retain things better when I handwrite, so more on that in a moment. Okay, so back to the missing that one encounter thing. Problem I ran into now with having just sheets of paper, because I also did a few things like just writing down, this is plans for an entire session just on a piece of printer paper. Sorry if I'm jumping all over the place. Okay, so the problem I ran into with just writing things down on sheets of paper is that things would go missing. I would misplace them. I could have solved this very easily by getting like a 3-ring binder or just a folder and putting it all in there. But I kind of kept putting that off. So I misplaced a couple of things just in the getting stuff out to game and putting stuff away. It's easy for a loose piece of paper to accidentally end up, somebody thinks it's trash and puts it in the recycling. It happens. So back to this sheet of paper. This was just a list of a whole bunch of shops and stuff for a session that I knew they'd be in town, but didn't really have any big encounters. I might talk about this in a future video, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail here. Let's get back to the note-taking. And then finally, this arrived! Huzzah! And it solved my note-taking woes. I mean, I still probably have some note-taking woes, but this was what I really was waiting for. So I did an unboxing video. You can go check that out here if you want to get kind of a better glimpse of it. But as far as setting it up, I'm still in the process of going back through and adding previous session notes into this notebook, just kind of doing that like one session at a time, taking some time like putting on Critical Role and jotting down notes. So when I first got this, the first session, I still actually wrote it out on my computer because it was a bit of a complicated session. I knew I was probably going to end up going back and editing things. So I did that, and then I transferred it into this notebook. So this is that first session. I'll try and put some close-ups in here as well, but I forgot to write the date down. Whoops. Wrote the location. I'm using the location to write down the locations in world, not necessarily like whose house we're playing at, because we almost always play here. And then the session number. And I went in and wrote it all in. I wrote it in pen since I was just transferring it over from a Word document. And I went through and used some fun colors here and there to try that out. I tried kind of doing, okay, the different like DC checks I'll put in different colors. I abandoned this later on, but that was I tried to like bold a few things. I think that I might keep doing because it helps identify like especially names. So if you're going back through and trying to find something, it's a little bit easier. It jumps out of the page at you. And then over here, I've used this area for session notes. One note for this session. I think actually on the next page, yeah, there's another session note. And like you could see here, they actually kind of jumped ahead, so I just drew a little arrow so I could remember that. I also keep Post-it notes with me during session so that I can jot things down. I can pass a note to a player if I need to. And like this was one where I wrote down some stuff that they found. So here's another page of session notes. And this is a lot more simplified than the other one. It was a little bit more of a simpler session to plan for. There was a little bit more time for the party to interact and do things, and less like narrative story that was being told, and less details into the session that I needed. It was more like, okay, they're going to have this, and they're going to go here, do this, meet this person, get tasked with this, and this is the ultimate encounter that they'll do. Again, another fairly pared down session notes. This one I did write down some fun things that they came up with. Like I realized I needed the fall damage, so I went and found that actually during a break and jotted that down so I didn't have to go find that. And also, my players decided to name some of the crew that were on the pirate ship with them. I had just named the captain and like one other person, but they started making up crew names, so I wrote them down, like Scurvy Isabel and Barnacle Pete. Alright, so now we're to one of my favorite spreads, and probably the one I use the most. The encounter spread. I've got the party snapshot, super useful. This I have written in pencil, not in pen like I often do with my campaign notes, because I want to be able to reuse this sheet a lot. And mostly the party stays the same, not a big deal, but I want to write in the AC and stuff like that. And there are a few of them I haven't filled in for the players, but I do have initiative tents that has this information on it. And then over on the other side is the encounter manager sheet. As part of my session prep, I fill this in. At minimum, I fill in the name, page number, and all of the stats. If they're fairly straightforward monsters, like they don't have that many different abilities and stuff like that, I'll go ahead and fill those in down here. Now, if they're like complicated or they have a bunch of magical stuff, that I will just refer to the page number, or I'll jot it down on a separate piece of paper and tuck it in here just for that session. And the nice thing is, because there are a couple of these pages, I will fill them out for all of the encounters for that session and swap them out as I need them, because they come in and out. And I actually don't use this initiative area to keep track of initiative, because I use the initiative tents on my GM screen. I just find that a little bit easier. Instead, I use this area to mark down the HP, because I like, especially for encounters where there are like, this one I had like 6 of these sanguines. I said that weird. I had 6 of them, and then these 2. So I needed space to keep track of hit points for those 6. And I also use that space, I'll just write in like S1, S2, S3, blah, 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 blah. And I also use that space to mark down, okay, this one has Bane. Oh, this one got poisoned. I'll write that down so that I can remember it as I'm going through the encounter. So the other things that I've filled in this notebook is the Pantheon. I still have a few spots that I'm kind of filling in as I go, some of the key features. I did go ahead and write in the intro paragraph into it. That was fun and took quite a while. I'm looking forward to filling in the NPC and the location sheets. Those are things that I'm slowly going through and doing. I have used one of the little quad things to fill in some information about the different kind of key locations that the players are going to, that they have most of this information anyhow. I'm slowly going through and filling those in. So this is how I have been keeping track of my notes. I find this is nice. It keeps all of my notes in one spot, especially once I get everything in there. And it's easy to grab, it's easy to put away. I like that the sheets do come in and out, so that I can rearrange things. I've definitely been kind of moving. The way I've been setting it up is the encounter manager marks where the current session is. I find those dry erase sheets are easy to find. And then I put the notes for that session right after it. I keep a pencil with me so that I can fill in notes as we go, and that has meant that I've actually kept notes. I've kept track of things, and it's made then planning for the upcoming sessions a lot easier because I'm not having to recall things or send my players messages and be like, what did I give you last session? I know I gave you a magic item. What was it? It's just so much easier having a setup, a template. I find that having some kind of template to fill out is much better for me than just going with a blank notebook, and that kind of, the possibilities for filling it out overwhelm me a little bit. Okay, so hopefully this video wasn't too rambly and it was helpful for you. I'm interested to hear how you keep notes for your sessions. If you have any tips, any advice for me or for other GMs to try out to help keep track of things, make it easier on yourself, and just keep you organized. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, and I hope you share it with somebody that you think would love to get some advice on note-taking, both players and GMs. We make videos here every Tuesday and Thursday, but go ahead and subscribe, because then they'll just be in your subscription box, and that makes it easier. And you can also hit that bell if you want to be notified as soon as we do post those videos. A big thanks to our patrons, especially Tucker. If you want to support our channel, you can head over to our Patreon page and check out the perks of being a patron. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye! I should have had this prepped before I started filming.